first one is called separable. The other one is inseparable. Okay, stop writing. Later I'll give you the chance to write. Listen now. We have basically two types of phrasal verbs. Separable phrasal verbs. The first type is called separable phrasal verbs, and the second type is called inseparable phrasal verbs, right? Now, you might have heard about transitive and intransitive verbs.
Yes.
A transitive verb needs an object or has an object. An intransitive verb doesn't need an object. It's the same, right? The same. Some verbs, some phrasal verbs are transitive. When they are transitive, they are also called separable because they have an object, they need an object in a sentence. So, by separable phrasal verb, we mean that they have an object and we insert or include that object between the verb and the particle. I mean that we can separate the verb from the preposition from the particle by including the object, right, inside them or between them. So when you put the object between the verb and the preposition, you separate them. And that kind of phrasal verb is called separable. You can separate something that can be separated is called separable phrasal verb. Look at this example. I'm not going to give you new examples. I've already given you examples. To make things easy, I'm going to write one example again. See, I say, earlier I wrote one example. I wrote that why did he turn down your invitation. This was the earlier example. Here we have an example of separable phrasal verb. This turn down is a separable phrasal verb. Why? Because we have an object here. Invitation is what? An object. So it is a transitive phrasal verb because it needs an object in this sentence. In this sentence we have an object. If we would like to include this object between the verb and the particle here, inside them or between them, we can do that. And it's very, very common to insert the object between the preposition and the verb. Like we can rewrite this example this way. Another way of saying the similar example can be why did he turn, very good,
Your invitation down.
your invitation
Down.
down, very good. Now down is the preposition here. See, the preposition and the verb are separated now. Why? Between them we have used what? The object. So when the object is used inside or between the verb and preposition, that is called a transitive phrasal verb or a separable phrasal verb because we were able to separate them from one another. This is a separable phrasal verb. Is that clear? Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is an example of separable phrasal verb. Now which one sounds good? Which one sounds natural? Which one should we say? You may be having this question in mind. Why did he turn down your invitation? Why did he turn your invitation down? Which one should you go for? It depends on the speaker. Either is correct. Either is correct. You can choose anyone you are comfortable with, but it's also very common, or a little more common, to separate the preposition from the verb by inserting an object. So if you can insert it, then that sounds good. That sounds good. So both are correct. But one thing you need to keep in mind, that if this object, here is noun phrase, your invitation. If this object is a pronoun like it, if this is a pronoun it, then you must separate the preposition from the verb. You must separate. You have to. You have no other way. You have to say, why did he turn it down? It is not possible to say, why did he turn down it? That's not possible. With noun, you have two ways. You cannot separate, I mean, the object can follow the phrasal verb, why did he turn you an invitation? Why did he turn down your invitation? Or the earlier example, why did he turn your invitation down? Both ways were correct. We had both ways. But with pronoun, we have just one way. We must use the object pronoun between the preposition and the verb. That's the only option. And I told you that this is not possible to say, why did he turn down it? It is not possible here. If the object is pronoun, you must separate it. Right? Did you get that? Okay, so this is about the separable phrasal verb. And let's talk about the inseparable phrasal verb. Is there anyone who still is confused, a little confused? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, very good, fine. Now, inseparable phrasal verbs, on the other hand, are also called intransitive phrasal verbs. Why? Because they don't need an object in a sentence. They don't need. An example of this can be, let's suppose turn up. Turn up means to arrive. Turn up means to arrive. Turn up is an intransitive phrasal verb. It doesn't need an object in a sentence. For example, I'm telling someone, my friends were waiting for me, and I arrived a little late, so I'm telling them, sorry for turning up late. Sorry for turning up late means sorry for arriving late, means I arrived a little late and I'm sorry for that. So sorry for turning up late. Turn up here is an intransitive phrasal verb. Late is a kind of adverb. It cannot be an object, so it doesn't need or have an object. Therefore, it's called inseparable phrasal verb or intransitive phrasal verb. Is that clear?
Yes.
And the common one like sit down, go back, stand up. There are a lot of inseparable phrasal verbs. We will be discussing them later in my lectures. But for now, the types of phrasal verbs, there are mainly two types, separable and inseparable. Separable phrasal verb need an object, so you can separate the verb from the preposition by putting the object between them. And inseparable phrasal verb do not need an object and they cannot be separated. Now, in this example, you cannot say sorry for turning late up. You cannot use late here between them because it's inseparable, not possible to be separated. And one thing that I told you, you must keep in mind while using separable phrasal verbs. If you would like to, if you have an object, then you must separate the phrasal verb, the verb from the particle or the verb from the preposition. You must separate that. If you have an object that is a pronoun, if that is a noun, then it's okay. Either you separate it or not, still both examples are equally correct. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, write it down, come on.